All right, boys, we've had a slew of fight announcements, it seems like, this past week. Just things all over the place. But one thing that has kind of gone a little bit under the radar, though it is gaining traction for those of us hardcores out there. Weili Zhang set to fight Rose Namajunas first quarter of 2021. Drake, I know you're the expert in women's MMA here, at least on this panel. What do you make of this matchup? And are you surprised that they're doing this fight Q1 of 2021?
Well, as a matchup, love the matchup. I think it is a very fun stylistic clash. I don't think you can really argue with that. The biggest surprise, I think, for me about this whole thing is we've kind of been talking about this fight pretty much since Rose beat Andrade, right? Which was quite a while ago now. And yet it just hasn't been made. That's really the biggest surprise, is that we were just waiting and waiting for whenever this is going to get made. And now we're hearing first quarter of 2021, sure. But there's not even a date yet. Not even a rough estimate, just kind of in the beginning of the year, we will finally get to see this fight. Like, sure, okay, just can we just get it over with, make it happen already? I'm just dying to see Weili back against Rose. Sure, that's a great fight. Not exactly the right person, in my opinion. I think that Xiaonan has surpassed everybody to become the number one contender now, and even Carla Esparza is ahead of Rose in the line. I think it's between them for the top two contenders now. Of course, people will be like, oh, Joanna rematch would be awesome. Yeah, it would, but let's slow the brakes there. Don't want to turn her into a complete Holly Holm clone at strawweight, flyweight, all that business. So, yeah, but then the thing is, like, I think that Jan should been Weili. That should be the fight to happen next. But at the same time, that's a fight that very, 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 very clearly needs to happen in China, because they're both Chinese, the best Chinese fighters in the world right now. Would be a massive thing. UFC would be absolutely stupid not to do it in China. So they're like, okay, well, I'm assuming the holdup is on Rose for this whole thing, right? This whole time it has been, Weili has been ready to go for a little bit now. And, we've seen in the past, Rose is kind of non-committal to, timings, and just going to do what she wants to do. And when she's ready, she'll come back and do it. So maybe that's another case here, and they're just being very generous to her. So in that case, okay, fine, if because of the Xiaonan matchup, and maybe you can't make it happen in China just yet, we're going to wait for Rose. We don't want to give it to Carla because we don't like Carla. She's not exciting. She doesn't have dominant fights, all this, yada, yada. But at the same time, she continues to win. So, and then the thing is, Carla and Rose have the same management too. And when they've already been talking about Rose getting it, they're going to lean towards Rose over Carla. Sorry, just how it goes. So, yeah, fantastic matchup, Rose versus Weili, I think. Not the right one necessarily, but just let's get it over with, okay? So I'm happy that hopefully we're going to get it in 2021. Let's just do it already.
I gotta say there, I don't know many analysts or fans claiming for Jan to get the next shot over Rose. I've heard a lot of the other, that Rose deserves this as a former champion, as knocking off Andrade. Mr. Wells, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I like it. I like this matchup. I think this is the way to go for me personally. Rose has the name that everybody's familiar with, right? Everybody likes to go back to the highlights of her, knocking out Joanna. The call of that is still just one of the best calls ever between, DC and John Anik. So the popularity thing is there. I do like Drake's point, though, that, yeah, I'm glad they didn't, try to throw Joanna in there again, because, yeah, that is very much like the Holly Holm route, right? Just Holly Holm wakes up and she's in a title fight on any given week. So I'm glad that's not happening. But listen, if we're going by rankings, and me, I'm a proponent of having the more fluid rankings when it comes to who gets the next title shot. If you're number one, you should be getting the next title shot. That's how I view it, and that's how it should be, right? Number one contender means, hey, I'm up to contend next. That's just how it should go. But it's just not how it always works out. But I love the matchup. I love it stylistically. I love the intriguingness of what can happen when this goes to the mat, because we know Zhang can take it there. We know Rose is good off her back. I love the matchup, man. And one thing I hope doesn't happen is something weird with Rose getting there. Like Drake also kind of hinted at. Like if something is going on wrong, if something is the slightest bit off in Rose's life where she's not 100% confident in what's going on with camp or other things affecting her preparation for a fight, she'll be like, "No, we're not doing it right now," and she can pull out. I mean, hey, that's her prerogative. She can do it. You know, that's her thing. She can delay the fight. I like the fact that she's that much in control of her career and not just going in there and stepping in injured or whatever the case may be. I like that about her, but I also don't like it when it can delay a fight for a couple months. So, you know, let's just hope it all goes according to plan first quarter of 2021 or first, you know, January, whatever they actually end up, you know, announcing that date in the near future. I love it. I hope it goes off without a hitch, and it would be a hell of a fight to witness.
Yeah, I'm with Mr. Wells on this one. I'm very excited for the matchup. I know, as you both alluded to, Rose has had some issues outside of the cage, which sometimes delay her getting into the cage. But once she's in the octagon, she's looked stellar, right? She's just looked amazing. I think this is the best matchup for Weili right now, other than possibly Tatiana Suarez, who is still out with that injury. But I really want her to get back in there to see where she's at. Don't think she should get a title shot with this long of a layoff, obviously. I like the idea of Jan versus Weili as well, and if Weili gets past Rose, I think that makes sense. But I'm also definitely on board with Drake's idea that you got to have that fight in China. It's too big for business there. When Weili won the belt, they were able to renegotiate the TV deal with the CCP, basically double it. If they're looking at having that type of fight there and getting the traction that Weili's been able to bring, plus, you know, Jan there as well, you're looking at possibly after that fight going back and saying, hey, let's go ahead and renegotiate that again. That's huge money for them. That's the, you know, the markets they've talked about getting into have been China, Russia, basically Middle East, and that whole part of Asia. So it definitely makes sense to wait until you can sell that out in China to have that fight. You know, one thing that we've touched on about, you know, liking this matchup, liking that, you know, well, I guess Drake didn't like it, but, you know, whatever, Drake. But let's say Drake really liked this matchup. Who do each of you have winning this fight? Drake, I'll start with you.
I like the matchup as a matchup, all right? I don't think it's the most logical matchup is what I was getting at. So let's clarify that. And I just want to talk about that too real quick before giving my prediction. But it's also kind of weird, and I don't think that the UFC, the champion shouldn't have to wait for the challenger, right? And historically, it doesn't seem like they're really willing to wait. The UFC is willing to wait for either champion or challenger. Like we've seen in the past where, you know, Woodley, for example, he's not ready. You know, we're gonna, or who was it? For the Darren Till fight, it was supposed to be Colby for that one, right? And they're like, sorry, Colby, not waiting for you, buddy. So you're not interim champion anymore. They don't usually wait around, but it seems like they're doing it for Rose as far as we know, maybe. So that just kind of an interesting little note about this whole matchup, I think. As for the fight itself, it's a tough one. I think that Rose's speed, she's probably going to be, I think her Weili, Rose, Xiaonan, you know, Joanna, all these top strikers in the division, probably all equally about the same speed and quickness of how quickly they strike and all that, matching each other, which I think is going to be a big deal for somebody like Weili, as we saw in the Joanna fight. Very close, awesome fight and everything, but Weili just hits harder than a lot of people and is just technique for days. Super strong too. She's just like the full package, man. But Rose has such a unique killer instinct, I think, especially when it comes to submissions on the ground and all that, just finding positions and openings. We don't see it as much lately, but, you know, on the come up, she was really crafty with finding that stuff and just a consummate finisher. Man, I don't know. I just think Weili is kind of next level right now and should be a little bit of a step ahead. And if we look back at the Rose versus Andrade rematch too, in that third round, Andrade came on very strong and, you know, was looking close to maybe finishing. People thought that she might have done that if there were 2 more rounds in the fight. Kind of wish that there were. Bummer that we didn't get to see that, but a very fun rematch too. And Rose definitely won the first 2 rounds. But yeah, so I just think that if we're looking at what we've seen recently from both of them, I just got to lean with the champ still. But yeah, it'll be fun no matter what. This is the strawweight division. It doesn't matter who you put in there. Let's get that out of the way. I don't care that much. All these matchups are amazing. Okay, this division is the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with going with the champ on this one. Mr. Wells, what are your thoughts on this? Somebody that actually likes this matchup. What are your thoughts on on who takes this one?
It kind of depends, right? I mean, in terms of just purely on who I think will win the fight, I think Weili will get it done. I think she just based on her last outings has looked almost unbeatable in her last couple of outings to me, in my opinion. But I think she would get it done against Rose. As much as I'm a big fan of Rose, man. I like her. I've cheered her on literally every time she stepped into the octagon. So I'm just going by just the recent outings, man. I know she, had the split against Joanna, but before that, the fight against Andrade. I mean, look, you can't say too much more about that, right? Just complete dominance, first round finish. I like fights that are hard to pick, and this is one of those. Whether it be like you can analyze it all day, and at the end of the day, it's just like, I could see why Rose would win, or I could see why Weili would win, and this is one of those fights. And I like the fact that the outcome could mean so much for the division in either way it goes. If Weili wins, you could see that potential huge fight set up in China, like Drake has hinted at. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. If Rose wins, you have that same predicament that I mentioned a second ago. Like, how often is she going to be fighting if she wins that championship? Because we know Weili would have probably fought at least one more time if this virus wasn't a thing this year. So activity it comes into question. So for the sake of the division, the health of the division, the frequency of defending the title, I would think wanting Weili to win would be the way to go if that's what you're interested in. But if you're a fan of Rose, obviously, you want to roll that way. Thug Rose all day. But, like I said, man, it's just one of those fights. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick a winner. But again, if you're asking me to put my money down on the line just to pick a winner, I'm going with Weili today.
Yeah, great points. I agree. I think this is one of those fights where you could spend days analyzing it, and it's just going to be hard to pick. I definitely feel this is the biggest challenge for Weili yet. If the right Rose shows up, right? If we see the type of Rose that showed up that knocked out Joanna and was able to edge that decision against Joanna the second time, I think that's a real tough test for Weili because she's got that ground game, as Drake mentioned. It's not just Joanna who's going to come and strike all day. She's got to watch out for being on the ground. So I hope that's the Rose that shows up. I hope that's the fight we get. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Rose just because we haven't seen a ton of Weili's ground game. And if Rose can get it there, I think there's an advantage. And also just to be different, because I got two guys picking Weili. So I'm going to go Rose. Man. I know, Drake. You're just mad that you don't like this matchup, so it's fine. But yes, I'm gonna go
down on train, baby.
But yeah, I'll be hipster. I'll go Rose. But again, this is a coin flip to me. I'm not looking to put money down unless the odds are heavily either way, right? If one of these ladies is plus 200, I'm betting on that lady. Otherwise, I'm not sure I'm gonna touch it. So. Yeah, we'll see what happens come Q1. I think from a business point, even if Rose gets it done, probably going to end up with a rematch because it's too important for the UFC to not try and give Weili a chance to get that belt back and retake the market. Because if Weili loses, that could have some business ramifications. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, hopefully we get a firm date here soon.